Formula One returns to the United States in the Lone Star State for the US Grand Prix at the Circuit of the Americas just outside Austin. The American fans have really taken to Formula One. They loved in Indianapolis all those years ago, and since 2012 they've really loved the Circuit of the Americas. We've had some great races here over the past. We had Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel taking big wins here at the US Grand Prix in Texas, and Lewis Hamilton's domination in the last few races, and leading the World Championship and to win in Japan and basically look like he has his 4th championship in the bag. We're really excited to see what this guy can do. I mean, he's breaking records left, right and centre. You know, he broke Ayrton Senna's pole position record. He broke Michael Schumacher's pole position record. There is talk about him possibly going on in his career to break Michael Schumacher's race win record if he stays in Formula One long enough. And it really is looking like he has his 4th championship in the bag. But as John likes to say, don't count your chickens too soon. And we're going to be discussing what can happen and do we think that Lewis Hamilton has a shot. But I've got to say though, guys, if Ferrari have any chance of pulling this back, well, when I say Ferrari, I mean Sebastian Vettel. If Seb has a chance of pulling this back, it has to happen in this race. Mexico is way too late. Brazil, you're joking, and Abu Dhabi, he may as well not even turn up if he's not going to win this World Championship. You know, it's not. This is his last chance saloon, and we all know Texas, we all know the Cowboys and things like that. In terms of an American reference, this is his last chance saloon. But anyway, we're going to crack on with our show, and as we always start, we're going to start with our predictions for what we think is going to happen in this US Grand Prix. Now, in 3rd place, I'm going to go with Daniel Ricciardo, the Red Bull driver. Now, he has had a really, really great season. We're coming to the end. This is the 3rd race in October, and it really is cutting down to the crunch. Mexico is a great race, and then Brazil and Abu Dhabi, almost like both of them take the curtain closer. You know, it's quite sad in a way because we're getting so close to the end of the season, and he has had a great season. He's had a running streak of some amazing podiums. It's been really, really fantastic, all the way to Austria from Spain. From Spain to Austria, podiums left, right and centre, including his win at Baku. Strong season. Obviously, Max Verstappen taking the victory in Malaysia. The spotlight kind of shifted away from him, but he still made the podium. Great race in Japan also, and I think that he'll be on for a strong 3rd place. He's definitely made a good stance this year. But obviously, as a senior Red Bull driver, been at the team for a few years now, since 2014, obviously been in Formula 1 for a very, very long time. He'll definitely want to make a stance going into next year, because this is almost like what it is now. It's almost like preparations for next year. Now, in 2nd place, now this is a hard one. Is it going to be Sebastian Vettel? Is it going to be Lewis Hamilton? You know, the 2 championship rivals, of course. But I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say it's going to be Valtteri Bottas. Now, with Valtteri Bottas, he's been quite quiet in the last few races. Now, as I said in the GT preview show for Japan, and obviously as we've said in the last 2 F1 debate shows, we've said that you know, he hasn't made that much of a stand, so much so that he did in the first part of the season. You know, that part he was really on top, he was on form, he was actually winning races, he was kind of looking like he was, you know, he's a big challenger to Lewis Hamilton and of course Sebastian Vettel. Now I think he'll bring this back. I think that he hasn't really done very well at the circuit in the past, obviously when he was driving for Williams, but I just have a feeling that this race, it's going to be fantastic for the Mercedes, and I think that they're going to do really, really well with Valtteri Bottas in 2nd place. And in 1st place, now, is it going to be Sebastian Vettel? Is it going to be Lewis Hamilton? Like I said in the original point, now I'm going to say it's Lewis Hamilton, and as I say that, that is him almost confirmed to everyone out there that he's going to win the World Championship. Now, Seb hopefully has a good race, but with Ferrari's reliability in the last 2 races lacking, it feels like, if it almost feels like Ferrari are kind of digging their hand in the sand and going, I think we've lost this today. We've lost the World Championship for Seb. Obviously, we've lost the constructors. I mean, we lost the constructors, you know, probably about Monaco. Monaco, between Monaco and Silverstone, and that was probably when they realised that they'd lost it, because obviously the constructors, Mercedes have dominated almost all year. But the drivers, Seb had a big chance of winning it, and he's kind of lost that because of Ferrari. I don't think they're going to have a stellar the US Grand Prix. Obviously, for example, like Seb, I remember 2013, great race by him. That was also part of his 9 in a row. That was one of his strongest ever, races, really, really strong. I also remember 2012, battling Lewis Hamilton. He didn't win the race. He started in pole position. He was in first a long time, but he didn't win the race. But I remember that was also a strong race, and obviously the year that he also won the World Championship. So Seb hopefully has a good race in the US. Hopefully Kimi does, but I don't think Ferrari have the the kudos in both reliability and pace to compete with the Mercedes at this time. I think it'll be a Mercedes 1-2. Now, we haven't seen that happen in a good few races, so that'll obviously be very good to see. Then I think Lewis Hamilton will then, put himself and say that he's going to win for sure, that he's going to win the World Championship this year, and obviously make it four in the bag, the same as Seb, the same amount of championships as Sebastian Vettel, his rival for most of this year. Anyway, so Jordan, that is my top three for the US Grand Prix. What's your top three for this for the Lone Star race?
Well, I think it's a very tricky top three, I would say, because there are so many teams battling for that position. Well, when I say teams, I mean the Ferraris and the Red Bulls. Now, we all know how unreliable the Ferraris have been. However, the Red Bulls have been surprisingly competitive. When the Ferrari falls, the Red Bull rises in a way. But I'm just thinking that one of these races that Ferrari are going to be back to where they have been throughout the course of the season. Now, obviously, touching on what you were saying about Ferrari digging their heads in the sand, that's more than less correct, because they've we have literally the constructors is gone without a doubt. There's no way in the world Ferrari's going to catch the Mercedes. It doesn't matter what happens, unless obviously both Mercedes retire and then Ferrari wins 1-2 every single race. But that's not going to happen. It is a very true statement. However, I am going to favour Ferrari for this Grand Prix, because I think they know how much they need for Sebastian Vettel to finish on the podium, obviously, and to win the race if he wants to have any single chance of winning the championship, or even having a sniff of winning it. And I'm putting him into P3 now. I'm not saying I feel confident he will do that. I'm just saying that because of the situation Ferrari's under in. And obviously with Sebastian Vettel as well, I just think that he will push on a bit more. It won't be a close top three. I think the Mercedes is going to run away with it. Obviously, I'll probably give away my next two. But anyways, I think it is going to be a Sebastian Vettel lone, boring type of race. You might have a good qualifying. I think you might get P3 or something like P4 being qualifying. Have a good race. If the car doesn't let him down, of course. And maybe have a decent race. I can't see anything spectacular from Ferrari anymore from now to the end of the season. I think it is all about next year. That even though, yes, Sebastian Vettel is saying, we still have a chance. Let's be realistic. They're not going to win it anyways. In P2, I've gone with Valtteri Bottas. Yes, Lyle, what Lyle was saying, that he has been very, very quiet this season. It's been a while since Mercedes have had a 1-2. Hamilton has been pretty much carrying the team throughout the course of the second part of the season. Bottas started strongly. He's then dropped off the pace a bit, which is very disappointing. But again, he's got a point to prove if he wants. Even though he is signed for 2018, he still has a point to prove if Mercedes want to keep him beyond that, and if he wants to, to be established as a very good driver as well. So obviously, he's got a lot to prove. I think he'll get in P2. I think this is the type of circuit that Mercedes thrive on as well. Cut, brilliant corners, long straights, very pacey circuit for the Mercedes. They are going to torture this circuit. And when I'm speaking of torture, I mean torture pole positions, I mean torture lap times, breaking records left, right and centre. And obviously Lewis Hamilton is the ideal winner for this Grand Prix. This guy's unstoppable right now. I can't see him losing another race from now to the end of the season. I know anything can happen. So any bloody Ferrari fans, just look at that. Just remember, and after the course of the season, just after how competitive it was, Hamilton has just literally gone above and beyond, above expectations as well. So I think Hamilton's going to dominate. It's just going to dominate this track, pole position and the race win. 72 pole positions, 62 wins. One step closer to breaking Michael Schumacher's record as well. I also want to say as well, before I hand back over the Lyle for the next part, I just want to say that if Ferrari do win if Vettel wins the Drivers' Championship, he doesn't deserve it at all. For me, Hamilton is a well-deserved winner as well. And obviously, we're going to talk about in the part after Friday the Grid about how Mercedes can wrap it all up, and how Hamilton can wrap up the championship as well. It is very, very likely Hamilton is going to do it at some point, whether it's here or Mexico. But in my opinion, if Vettel does end up winning it somehow, then he doesn't deserve it. Obviously, let us know your opinions in the comment section below. Well, that's my top three, Lyle. Hamilton P1, Bottas P2, Sebastian Vettel P3. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, very simple, very, almost the same. But I mean, we definitely think that Lewis Hamilton is going to do really, really well. I mean, this really has been a turning point. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Lewis Hamilton, going over into 2018 as well. And obviously, there'll be a very long time that he can do. I mean, he's got another few. I think it was about 2020 that he probably can start, getting close to, if not matching and if not beating Michael Schumacher's 91 race wins that he has in Formula 1. Which, to be honest, if he does that, it will make him just somebody who, it's going to be like an honour to have lived through his era. But obviously, we're going to be talking about that a lot later, later on in the episode. And obviously, as John said, we're going to be talking about Lewis Hamilton and Seb more so in the second part. So the next part, obviously, is Fry the Grid. Now, forget the World Championship just for about 10 minutes, as we do always. To do the Fry the Grid World Championship, that is getting very, very close. I'm on 42.5 points, and John is on 45 points at the moment. It's now my turn to take the questions with 4 rounds to go. Obviously, this one, Mexico, which is Jordan's, Brazil, which is mine, and then Jordan closed the season in Abu Dhabi, so it's very, very close. It's so tight. Jordan has a lead, only by a little bit. Anyway, let's see how I do for Fry the Grid in the United States.
Howdy y'all.
Ooh.
My name is Lyle from the F1 Debate Show, and let's get ready to fry the grid for the best country in the world, Stars and Stripes of America, of the US Grand Prix.
Brilliant accent. Question 1. Since making its return in 2012, Lewis Hamilton has won every race at the Circuit of the Americas apart from one. Who won that race?
That was Seb in 2013.
Very well done, it was indeed.
Yep.
Obviously not hard to predict, obviously he won the last
In
9
a row,
rounds.
yeah, of course I.
Question 2. Who won the first race at the USA in 1959? Now I must point out that races were held in Formula 1, however there were non-championship events in Formula 1.
Right, okay, so
this is the first one that was a
so
Formula 1
obviously
event.
it was, Wild Jimmy from down the street. Right.
Stick my drivers in the late 50s,
Yeah.
early 60s. They might be driving.
John Surtees,
St. John Surtees?
Jim Clark, Frank Sinatra. I mean, not Frank Sinatra. Why did I say Frank Sinatra?
Frank Sinatra?
Jackie Stewart. No, I don't know. I'm gonna say Jackie Stewart. He sounds like the more feasible one.
Jackie Stewart.
Yeah.
It was actually Bruce McLaren, and that was his first win in Formula 1. At the time,
Ooh, wow.
he was the youngest driver to ever win a Grand Prix.
He was for about 40 years, I
It
believe.
was indeed, wasn't it? Question 3. How many American F1 drivers have won the World Championship?
Okay, that is only. Oh no, there isn't, because there's Mario Andretti for sure, but I think Phil Hill was that.
Phil Hill?
It was American, and I'm gonna lock that. He's supposed to give us a Chris Tarrant final answer.
Final answer?
Phil Hill.
So you're saying 1 or 2?
2, please.
2.
Phil Hill.
2 please, I'll have 2
please.
please. Yes, it was, you are correct. Phil Hill in 1961
Yes.
and Mario Andretti in
Do you know what,
1978.
for some reason I was thinking when I said Phil Hill, I was thinking he was from New Zealand, but
I used to always think Phil Hill was a relation to Graham
Yeah, I
Hill
know
and then
it
to
is.
Damon Hill.
No.
Question 4. Now I did my almost definite research on this one
my God.
to make sure that was not another Liottigate. I
the
know it.
Liottigate.
I know it.
Okay, go.
Who was the last American F1 driver to race in Formula 1?
No, I don't have this in Liottigate. Oh, he was loving life. Go.
Go on, son.
Oh, what a lad. What a lad. Right. Now, God. Now, Scott Speed, he was in Formula 1 about 2007 because he drove for Toro Rosso, I think. So, but you really confused when you said Liottigate, because I'm now thinking that
Because because we mucked up the last time because I thought Trulli was still the only driver in F1.
yeah.
But
Oh, no, well-
Liottigate was. Now I'm saying I did my research to make sure that, that there wasn't 2
Right.
American drivers at the same time. There was definitely one, and he was the last
I
one.
have to say Scott Speed. It can't
Saying
be anyone else.
saying Scott
Yeah,
Speed?
it can't be anyone else.
You might kick yourself when I say this.
No.
It was actually Alexander Rossi in 2015 when he raced for Manor.
Oh, kick myself.
Question 5. Where is the main base of Haas F1 team in America?
God, I think it's in Colorado. I think, but don't let that in.
Now, you can say the name of the place or the state, it's up to you.
Oh, I'm not going to get the place for sure. I think it's in Colorado.
Is it in Colorado?
Go Colorado.
It's actually North Carolina.
No.
Kannapolis.
Who?
Kannapolis.
Kannapolis.
That's the place,
What
North
a
Carolina.
name.
Question 6. How many points did Haas F1 team achieve in its rookie year?
Oh my god. I have no idea. 28.
29! Oh, you won away! I thought you had it there. You sounded confident, you knew it. Question 7. How many corners does the Circuit of the Americans have?
I have no idea. 16?
20.
Oh, come on.
Now, I believe that's the most on the calendar.
I
I think
might
it
be,
is.
yeah.
I think it is.
It's not. It's Singapore with 23.
Question 8. To the nearest thousandth, what was the capacity of the opening United States Grand Prix in 2012?
130.
117,000. The actual capacity was 170,500. 429.
470. All right.
Yes.
Wow.
Question 9.
All right.
What year did all the Michelin tired teams retire from the race
Yeah.
after the formation lap because they deemed that the Michelin tyres were unsafe following following Ralf Schumacher's heavy crash
Yeah.
in practice?
Now it's
No,
either
Grand Prix.
2005 or 2006. I'm gonna say 2000 and was it Indianapolis?
Yes.
So I'm gonna say 2005.
And you were correct. 2005.
Thank God.
Question 10. Which team has a record 9 wins in the United States of America?
Like overall, the constructor.
Yeah.
Ferrari.
Yes, it was Ferrari
Get
with...
in. Love and Life.
Yes, 9. You got 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10. That is really bad, unfortunately, in terms of like my progression this season. But it's not too bad, and obviously, you know, as we are obviously living in the country of the the best country in the world. There's nothing I want to do more than just to go home, get a corn dog.
Sounds nice.
A bird
Can I have one?
And watch the NFL game. Yeah, so I'll just go up to my room, get the elevator, go on the sidewalk, yeah, until next time, guys, until Mexico, I will see you later back in the studio.
And off he goes.
So Lyle, you take the lead by 1.5 points. You got 4 points at America. Are you happy with that? Well, it's only 1.5 points, so it's very, very tight.
Yes, oh wow, it's very tight, very tight. But I mean, that makes it all good for the 2017 Friday Grid. We hope you were enjoying the season so far. I mean, yeah, as John said, it's really, really tight. But he takes questions
so,
next
yes.
in Mexico. Let's see if he can take the lead and what is going to happen. Who is going to win at the end of the season? Obviously, again, if this is your first time watching Friday Grid, we hope you've enjoyed it. Obviously, make sure to check out basically the whole season. So from Australia all the way to the most recent in Japan, and then obviously today's, and then keep tuned for Mexico on to Abu Dhabi. We're also going to be putting them all together to see who wins the World Championship in Friday Grid of 2017. Anyway, so let's focus on this championship, the Formula 1 Championship, and of course it is Lewis Hamilton in the lead from Sebastian Vettel. Now Seb once had the lead. He had the lead coming into Singapore, crashed out of that. Bad Malaysia, bad Japan, and basically it's all Lewis Hamilton's favour. Now it really is strong. So we're actually finally into stat country, guys, where we can actually start revealing some statistics on how they're actually going to win the World Championship, which obviously I always loved watching, because obviously they used to do this around like Brazil time and Abu Dhabi time, and it's really, really exciting. Now, as you know, Lewis Hamilton is in the lead, and he could win the World Championship at the US Grand Prix, which, if you remember, he did his most recent World Championship, in 2015. He won that in the USA as well. So, if Hamilton wins the race and Vettel finishes if Hamilton wins the race, Vettel has got to finish in 6th place or lower than 6th place. Now, with the problems that they've been having, Mercedes might be quite happy, because they might be like, oh my god, this is actually going to happen, really. I mean, Lewis could be lifting the World Championship in this race, but that's if Lewis wins the race, Vettel's got to finish 6th or lower. If Lewis Hamilton finishes in 2nd place, he'll be World Champion. If Vettel finishes 9th, also still in the points, or lower, so 9th, 10th or lower in the classifications, and also Valtteri Bottas fails to win. Remember, he is still in the championship fight as well, so that means Lewis Hamilton would go clear. He would be uncatchable for the rest of the season, and he would win the World Championship. And if he finishes in 3rd place, wherever Sebastian Vettel finishes, even if he DNFs and so does Bottas, it doesn't matter. If Lewis finishes 3rd, the race goes on to the next round, which is in Mexico. Now, obviously, that was the drivers. Let's talk about the constructors. Now, Mercedes have a massive gap over Ferrari at the moment, and they're probably going to win the World Championship in the constructors. I mean, it's written in the stars, really, and they could do it at this race as long as they maintain a gap of the lead by at least 129 points. Now, obviously, the most points that you can get in a weekend for a constructor is 43 points, 25 for the winner and 18 for 2nd place, which means, obviously, if you count them all up, obviously we have Abu Dhabi, Brazil and Mexico all left. Now, if they maintain a gap over 129 points, they have 145 at the moment, so they can actually lose a few points, but if they maintain 129 points and over, they will win the Constructors. And if Ferrari can get at least 17 points between Sebastian Vettel and Kimi Raikkonen, they will halt Mercedes for another race. But obviously, as I've just said, like the World Championship for the drivers, the Constructors, it goes down by 43 points every single race. So by Mexico, the gap will be 43 minus 129. Then obviously for Brazil, it'll be 86, and then obviously 43 points for Abu Dhabi, but they'll have probably won it before then. Anyway, so that is the statistics corner out of the way with. Obviously, they're all the stats for Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes to win the World Championship. Now, they are great to live by, but Nico Rosberg kept getting stats thrown at him around Mexico time last year, and it was all about could he do it at the the US Grand Prix, could he do it in Mexico, can he do it in Brazil, and it went down all the way to the wire. So as John said, and like I said at the first part, don't catch chickens too soon, because this could go down to the wire. And to be honest, we hope it does as well, because obviously, like 2015, when a World Championship, well, like many years, but obviously like 2015, like 2013 and like 2012 and things like, not 2012, sorry, like 2011, things like that, when a World Champion's already decided, especially in the driver's end, when a World Champion's already decided, it makes it a little bit boring for us watching. So we would like it to go down to the wire and obviously make it for a thrilling race in Abu Dhabi, and that's obviously what we are all hoping for. Now, he really has been on form, Lewis Hamilton. He's really turned this championship apart, having an amazing season, but he's had a great few races. Now, that ties down to him as a driver. I'll tell you what really changed me from thinking that Lewis Hamilton's just a great driver to one who he could go on and win the fourth, and I think he will do, and I think he's even more of a legend from that. And it basically was only something small. It was just the onboard footage of him taking pole position in Suzuka. Now, he broke the lap record. It was unbelievably fast. He was flying around these corners, the hairpins. Yeah, he smashed it. Yeah, he didn't just beat it, he smashed it, yeah. I mean, he was flying through these hairpins. He was just taking corners like no other. And I watched that, and it was almost like, when you speed something up, like, say if you're watching something on YouTube and you speed it up, it was like that. But it wasn't sped up. It was real life. It was happening right now. And wow, it was really unbelievable. On the other side of the spectrum, though, Ferrari, now they've had a bit of bad luck in their way. Bad luck in terms of reliability, but I also think that, for example, like Malaysia's woes, or even Japan's kind of lack of pace, could have been down to just Ferrari especially Japan, even just kind of burying their heads in the sand, like we said in the first part. I just think that they could have been a much stronger, much more of a vibrant team. Yes, obviously Ferrari started on the front row and put up a good fight, but the pace was really lacking. Not just for the Mercedes, not just compared to Mercedes, but even compared to other teams like the Red Bulls. It just wasn't great for them. Obviously Malaysia was horrible, and there will be a few things that will come back to bite Ferrari where it hurts after the World Championship is over, and Mercedes win the Constructors. But for Seb and the drivers, it's like, he's a good driver, yeah, for sure. Is he as good as Lewis Hamilton in the same car? Well, that is debatable. But for sure, Mercedes are stronger than Ferrari. And this race, as I said at the start, John, this is going to define. It's Ferrari's last chance. It's Sebastian Vettel's last chance. He's in the last chance saloon. And if he doesn't do this, he can kiss his championship hopes goodbye. Yeah. Do you think that? Do you think that this is his last? I mean, it almost is on paper, really, but he still could carry it on, like I said in the statistics. So, do you think this is his last chance saloon? That if he makes a balls up in this race, that could be over, or do you think that? Because obviously Lewis Hamilton can win the race, but if Ferrari needs to Seb needs to finish 6th or lower. So, do you think that? Do you think that this is going to be the end of Seb's run for his 5th World Championship in 2017, or do you think he can pull something back onto the table and at least carry the fight on to Mexico?
Well, as my predictions go, it will continue on for another race. However, realistically, I think this will be probably the end of the road. I would say. Well, in fact, I wouldn't say it's the end of the road. I think it's been the end of the road ever since Singapore, I would say, because the reliability of the Ferrari, not just for Kimi Raikkonen, but for Sebastian Vettel as well, it just hasn't had any luck in terms of in terms of the raw pace, in terms of reliability of the car. Just like the Mercedes have just literally went, okay, right, we are actually under threat of losing the championship here for the first time since 2013. So obviously we don't want to do that. We want to keep this run going. So obviously they're like, right, let's try and up this engine. Let's try and find, an extra few horses somewhere. I don't know, just steal them, whatever. Just get them from Ferrari for all I care, and then just go all for broke. And that's what they're doing. And Ferrari, they're probably panicking in a way. Like at Ferrari HQ back in Maranello, it's probably absolute manic stations right now. It's like a very famous scene of desks on fire. There's paper everywhere. There's people running about killing everyone. I think that is literally Ferrari, at Maranello. I think, as I said in the first part, if Vettel does win the championship, of course he still can. We're not saying he won't. We're just saying realistically he probably won't, because Hamilton is just far too fast. He's far too strong at the moment. He's got such a big lead. 59 points is a very hard gap to close. Let alone at the end of the season. It's a hard gap to close during the season. It's been done before, I'm sure it has. But obviously now towards the end of the season, when the cars are now not as reliable as what they are, which you can see with the Ferrari. The teething problems are starting to come about, and I can't see Ferrari developing any more parts now to try and get over the line, because obviously their concentration is going to go into next season, and if they focus on too much for this season, it's going to affect next season, and it's just going to be a massive knock-on effect. So Ferrari's chance is gone without a doubt. Whether it does wrap it up here or not, it literally is the end of the road for Sebastian Vettel and Ferrari, which is a bit of a shame, because we were hoping that Ferrari would be able to break the Mercedes chain and obviously be about on the winning ways. I was favouring Ferrari for a lot of the season, but now when you think about it, Hamilton is far too strong. He's a better driver. Mercedes are just a better team, and I think hopefully Ferrari next season can push on and maybe make the challenge even closer. But as you know, Red Bull are a dark horse, as is Renault. So I think in the future, I don't think Ferrari will just be battling with the Mercedes. They're going to be with like Renault, Red Bull, maybe even the McLarens could maybe put their foot in the door somewhere, because everyone's saying that everyone's pretty scared of McLaren next season coming into Renault. I don't know if that's just paper talk, but I'm liking to hear that compared to of all the bad stories that we're hearing about Honda. But obviously on the subject of Renault, obviously on the next topic, it's just all manic stations right now over on that side of the team. So. It's yet again another new lineup for both Renault and Toro Rosso. So basically, I'll explain the situation. So by Malaysia, you had not by Malaysia. By Singapore, you had Toro Rosso of Carlos Sainz and Daniel Kvyat, and in Renault, you had Jolyon Palmer and Nico Hülkenberg. Roll on to Malaysia. Pierre Gasly has announced that he's going to replace Daniel Kvyat and work alongside Carlos Sainz for the Malaysian Grand Prix. Now everyone was a bit like, hang on a second, what's going on here? Now at this time, it was confirmed that Carlos Sainz was going to Renault for next season, but there was talk of him joining the team very early to replace the under pressure Jolyon Palmer. So obviously the Malaysian Grand Prix happened, Gasly raced. Roll on to Japan, it's exactly the same lineup. However, Jolyon Palmer announced straight after qualifying that Japan was going to be his last race in Formula 1 or for Renault so far. The 2017 Japanese Grand Prix would be his last race in Formula 1 and for Renault for now, which means in the next Grand Prix, obviously at the US Grand Prix, Carlos Sainz has now jumped ship over to Renault. I hope you're keeping track with this. Early, even though he wasn't supposed to, they've jumped across the water early, partly alongside Nico Hülkenberg. Gasly is not going to race in America. He's off to Super Formula to try and win the championship. One more round left, so he's not going to be there. Daniel Kvyat is coming back in, and Le Mans winner from this season, Porsche Le Mans win, Brendan Hartley, former Toro Rosso test driver as well in 2009 and 2010, will be taking Pierre Gasly's seat. Gasly's, Carlos Sainz's seat, whoever's seat, Daniel Kvyat's seat. I really don't know whose seat it is, but it's a very complicated situation. So basically, to put up a short situation, Daniel Kvyat and Brendan Hartley will be racing for Toro Rosso this weekend, and for Renault it'll be Carlos Sainz and Nico Hülkenberg. How do I think that these two will do? I think Carlos Sainz is going to have a very good race, I would say. Renault is very strong. I would say now, not so much towards the start of the season, but now, they are starting to get more reliable. Obviously, they're in that battle with fifth place along the likes of with Haas, Renault. Sorry, not Haas and Renault, man. Renault's own team. Haas, Toro Rosso, and Williams. So it is getting quite close there. And I think Carlos Sainz is a very good driver. He's much better than Jolyon Palmer, in my opinion. Those two are going to be a very good teammates next season. I don't know about this season. I'm not really too sure. But I think Carlos Sainz will have a better race. Maybe he'll score a point or two, depending on how the pace is in the car. Toro Rosso side of the garage, Brendan Hartley. He got dropped from the programme back in 2010. He's won off to do endurance racing. He's obviously won a Le Mans title, so obviously that's very, very, that's good to have. Obviously now we'll have two Le Mans winners on the grid. Obviously the other being Nico Hülkenberg. So again, that's good to hear. I think I can't see him scoring any points. I think it might be a bit of like a Paul di Resta type of style. Obviously, when he got drafted in, yes, he's had more time to prep, but I can't see him, being at one with the car, as to how difficult these cars are to drive this season. Obviously, we've seen how struggling, how Paul di Resta struggled to drive it, even though he was drafted in at the last minute. Obviously, Brendan has got more time to prep himself, but I don't think that's going to be enough. I think maybe Danny Kvyat might outscore him. I can't see him scoring any points. I think that's my situation for Toro Rosso. No points. Carlos Sainz might score a couple of points for the Renault team. As like I said, I don't know how the pace is going to be at a track like Austin. It's a very pacey circuit. Renault don't have that at the moment, but I think in due course, maybe at Brazil, maybe at Abu Dhabi, they can salvage a couple of points before the end of the season. So Lyle, it's a very complicated situation right now between these two teams. What do you think both these sets of new drivers could do? One being Carlos Sainz at Renault, how's he going to do? And Hartley at Toro Rosso, back at Toro Rosso, how do you think he's going to do with that team?
Now, with Carlos Sainz going to Renault, now Toro Rosso will not like that because obviously he was a big asset to the team. Obviously, he's really, really great. I mean, so no offense to Danny Kvyat, but he brought in a lot of Hall of points. I mean, even alongside Max Verstappen, he was quite strong, Carlos Sainz. Now, Nico Hülkenberg he'll like that, as he said, John. I mean, the big thing is a Le Mans winner, really experienced. Now, Nico Hülkenberg's results haven't been great this season. I mean, he's only been in the points a few times, retired 4 times as well. Sorry, in this season. So, I mean, obviously because he went to Renault, obviously to improve his career. He had Julian Palmer as a teammate. He maybe didn't pull his weight, even though again he was just fluctuating between positions, having a few more DNFs and a few more obviously bad results than Nico Hülkenberg. But I think that Nico will be happy that Carlos is coming into the team. Likewise, Renault will be really happy. He's a great asset to have in Formula 1. Second Spaniard on the grid. I mean, only 2 of 2 on the grid that there ever have been. So that's really great from them. Toro Rosso, on the other hand, I mean, I'm not saying that they will struggle because they haven't got Carlos Sainz, but he was probably the guy who was pulling them forward, if that makes sense. Yeah. Danny Kvyat as a good driver, obviously he used to drive for Red Bull as well. This new guy, I mean, great, he's a test driver and that, but give him a few races to prove himself again, because he's not just going to get in and do, like, for example, like a Stoffel Van Dorn in Bahrain 2016. I mean, he might, obviously, we're not saying anything, but he probably isn't, because obviously we haven't seen, let's say, like Pierre Gasly do that or anything like that. But I mean, there's all a possibility, you know what I mean? But he probably isn't going to do stuff Van Dorn. So I'm not saying that. I don't think he'll have a great race. Danny Kvyat, the leader of the team now, I don't think he's ready to be a leader. I don't think he's going to have a very strong race. I mean, as you said, John, the US Grand Prix is very pacey. The the Americas is very pacey. Yeah. He hasn't had a great race here in the past, obviously with Toro Rosso the first and second time, and obviously with Red Bull hasn't had great. This is where obviously some of the news came through last year that he got the seat, so that was good from him. But not a good race last year. Obviously, alongside that new guy, I don't think Toro Rosso are going to do very well. But on the flip side of it, Carlos Sainz, excited about coming to this new team. It's a new venture for him. Obviously, he's finally left Toro Rosso and the Red Bull program. Yeah. Obviously feeding into another team. I know Renault are kind of part of Red Bull. Obviously, they have a good partnership going. But a new team, new manufacturer, a works team, which he said he's always wanted to work. Well, I mean, I think every driver on the grid wants to work with a works team. One that has an actual engine and stuff. Working with Renault, more money, more possibilities. Alongside Nico Hülkenberg, I do think it is fantastic for Carlos Sainz. He's definitely going to bring, a very big asset to the team. And I'm really, really excited to see what can happen. But obviously, this is going to be his first race. Let's see what can happen. Bad finish to Toro Rosso. Retire, obviously spin off in lap 1 in Japan. Not great from him. But, let's see what he can do for Renault. I'm really excited to see what can happen. Obviously, like Nico Hülkenberg, he's gone from a big team, or a midfield team, let's say, to, a team that's more so towards the back of the grid, hoping to expand his career. We don't really know what's happening, but obviously they do. And like Nico Hülkenberg, we wish him all the best. Obviously, one of the biggest moves we've seen this season so far. But obviously, it's America, obviously, and we haven't mentioned this team yet, and obviously not many times this year, but we have to mention them this race, and that, of course, is Haas. Now, they were actually going to call this something like the Haas GP or the Haas F1 Grand Prix circuit, move the base to Texas and make more of a big deal about it. I mean, we know what the USA are like, they're like blowing something up, they're like making a big, deal out of, so, they love to getting a brand and just basically making the whole country about it. They wanted to promote Haas and show that they are the best thing since sliced bread, really. They wanted to move them to Texas and make a big deal about them, and they're going to do that again this year. They had Esteban Gutierrez last year. Fine, he was an okay driver, he did well at Sauber, but he's out, he's gone, and obviously they brought in Kevin Magnussen, who the American fans actually like him, especially when he's done PR campaigns and things like that over in the States before. Now, they've had an okay season so far, 43 points on the grid, obviously battling teams like Toro Rosso and McLaren, getting the way out with Sauber. It's great from them. It's looking progressive. They've had a few retirements. They've had a few points finishes here and there. Obviously, Roman's had 3 retirements. Kevin Magnussen's had 4. But they've had good points finishes here and there, probably about 50% of their actual finishing race this season. It's not bad. They haven't had any stellar performances like they did last year with Australia and Bahrain in 2016. Obviously, both double points finishes from Roman Grosjean. But on the whole, if you look at the whole season, I would say it is definitely progressive. Roman Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen both signed. They were both signed very, very early. I think they were one of the first few drivers to actually be signed, both in the team. I think they were signed about Silverstone time. So it was absolutely great from them. Just a great team, and obviously, I'm really behind them, really loved them. When they came into Formula 1, you didn't expect what much to see from them, but you just, bit your tongue and went for them, and they haven't disappointed in many races, I would say, this year, John. They have been really on top. Coming into America, this is their home race, and they're stronger than ever. I think they're going to get a really big reception, as I say, much bigger than they did last year with Gutierrez and Grosjean, with Magnussen and Grosjean, 2 drivers that basically everybody loves, we love, and that the fans love as well. I think they're going to get a good reception and hopefully a good result. Hopefully a double point finish, which would open them up into finishing the season on a high. Now, from 2016, Jordan, I mean, let's say, for the whole year, or from the US Grand Prix last year, Haas have performed. They've made big strides, wouldn't you agree? They've made big strides in terms of their drive progression, the team progression, and obviously building the car, which is quite good. Now, it's probably on par with last year, but in terms of how the team's moving forward, it really is great, isn't it? They look like a team now, heading into their home race, they look like a team now that are going to stay around for a very long time in Formula 1. Don't you agree?
I do. I think, Haas is a very unique team. I mean, obviously, when they came into Formula 1, we didn't know how they were going to be. Were they going to be a HRT, back market team? Were they going to be, a Mercedes team who are, progressive and then obviously dominate Formula 1? We were like, they've come from one motorsport into a very complicated Formula 1 at this stage. So obviously there was, as like we were saying beforehand, throughout the course of the season, there's loads of rules and regulations to try and get your head around, and that's probably why we don't have as much teams in the sport now, because of the finances and because of the rules. It's just mind-boggling, and that's why everyone's going to Formula E. So it was nice for Haas to come into Formula 1, and they've made themselves, very, very welcome. Very nice fan base, very good drivers as well in Roman Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen as well. A very good dream team. They've had a few barmates, but obviously you're going to say that within a team. Coming into the home race as well, I'm very excited to see what Haas has to offer. Oh my word, that was a mouthful, wasn't it? But I think hopefully they'll get double points. I think there'll be a big fan, big fan base there. Probably more so for Lewis Hamilton because he's always there. But I think you might have like your little Haas corner somewhere, probably down like turns 12 or something like that. I'm not too sure. It depends. Might have their own little fan base as well. But I'm excited to see what Haas has to offer. I think they're going to have a very strong weekend. I hope they do as well. Obviously, as always, let us know your opinions in the comment section below. Do I have any Haas fans from America watching this right now? Let us know. Are you a big fan of the sport? I did speak to an American once where I was asking him about, are you a fan of Haas? And he was like, well, yes, I like them, but obviously I'm not really a big fan of them because I support the likes of the Mercedes and the Red Bulls. Obviously, your bigger teams, but it is nice to have like a home team essentially. But obviously, I would like to see more people from America supporting the likes of Haas, and some people from Canada as well supporting Haas as well. Obviously, being from the region of North America as well. So hopefully they can build on their fan base as well, and obviously just become a stronger team. So obviously, just finally, obviously on the subject of actually Canada as well, we're going to talk about Williams. Obviously, nothing to do with Canada. Obviously, but one of their drivers is Canadian. Now, we're not going to talk about Lance Stroll, but we're going to be talking about Felipe Massa. Now, there is 4 races to go, and if this is last season, we all know Felipe Massa was on the way out the door. Obviously, had that big send-off in Brazil, and then before you know it, wait there, Felipe Massa's come back into Formula 1. Like, what was that all about? It was just so weird, anyways. And now we don't know his future by this stage, anyways. Now, there is rumours that Paul di Resta is going to replace his seat, as well as Robert Kubica. Now, Robert Kubica has had a test this week, a very successful one, that the Williams team reported back and said that it was a very successful test, did a number of laps, he looks strong. Obviously, remember, his right arm is badly damaged, so to have a very positive outcome on the test, Williams will be definitely considering him for that seat. Now, I think I said this about a couple of episodes ago when we talked about the subject. Massa will have the last say in, as whether he stays or as he goes. He's that experienced to know, yes, I can go on for another year and then that's it. Or he might go, you know what, I might say, right, someone else can have that seat and obviously just progress on. And obviously, if he does decide to do that, it's going to be either Paul di Resta or Robert Kubica. Sounds quite the same, doesn't it? But also maybe as well, Felipe Massa might also be run out of contract, and Williams might go, right, we're not going to renew your contract. We're going to have one of these two drivers in. So Massa could essentially be fighting for his place at the team. So maybe this race could be very, very critical as to whether he either stays or goes at Williams, because Robert Kubica has had that test. Paul di Resta is a reserve driver, so they have a lot of data with these two drivers. So I think this could be make or break. This could be a really make or break race for Felipe Massa, and may announce it before the Brazilian Grand Prix. It might have another send off as well. But I think Massa, this could be a make or break race for Massa. He needs to have a strong Grand Prix if he wants to have any hope of maybe retaining that seat. That's if he does, of course. But obviously only time will tell. I think Williams might have a strong race here, as obviously Lance Stroll just up the road. I say up the road, more like a plane journey away from his home country in Canada. So Lyle, Felipe Massa, Williams, how do you think they're going to fare at this Grand Prix with Felipe Massa seats essentially under pressure? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, Williams have done quite well here in the past. Now with Felipe Massa, now obviously, yeah, we had that send off in Intergalos 2016, which to be honest was very, very nice. It actually probably goes down along with the ending of Fast 7 as something that gets you going, gets you going inside. Which
Yeah.
a man cry thing, that's not ashamed to admit. But I think John's just choking up a little bit there when I mentioned that. I mean, but it was a nice, it was a nice.
I'm gonna lump it be throat.
It was a nice thing, guys. It was a nice send off that we had. I mean, we are celebrating Felipe Massa, being in Formula One, over a decade. Really, really fantastic from him. But obviously, it was a good thing that he came back to Formula One. It wasn't a bad thing. It wasn't almost like he's trying to con us or anything like that. Anyway, but when he came back, okay, because obviously we were talking, we were very skeptical and things like that. But now I thought that he would be fighting, he wouldn't be up there, getting the positions that he was with Ferrari, and even when he was at Williams, actually like contracted to race, for like 2014, 2015, things like that. Now I think that this year he's kind of hasn't been shown that much by the media, because it's almost like he's trying to work out in his mind what he wants to do. I think, in my mind, I was thinking anyway that he was going to just get the Formula 1 bug back, and he was going to stay in Formula 1 another year, because if anything, if you look about it, I mean, yeah, as John said, they have Robert Kubica in the line, and they have Paul di Resta in the line. I'm liking Paul di Resta more for that seat than Robert Kubica. I'll explain just in a little while, but I'm letting Paul di Resta a little bit more for that seat, but I do think though that they have Lance Stroll. He's a strong driver. He's had a good podium this year, obviously in Baku. He's had a few good points finishes, so good from him. They're going to keep him for next year. Now I think that they'll retain Felipe Massa. Now, I know we did a pictures where I said Fernando Alonso would get that seat. Now, unless he wants to go to Williams, obviously, of course, they'll go, Felipe, bye Felipe, ciao Felipe. They will actually say,
Adios.
go away. But until that time comes, I think they will retain Felipe Massa. I don't think Paul di Resta is ready to return to Formula 1 yet. I think staying as a test driver is what they will want. And I don't think Robert Kubica is ready for Formula 1 just yet, which is a shame and a little bit ironic, because obviously when it came into the summer and obviously he tested in Budapest, I was saying that he was going to be in Formula 1, and again I made my prediction that he would go to Renault. So obviously a lot of things have gone tits up at the moment, but I just don't think that he's ready for Williams. Paul di Resta may be the third place driver, but I've got a feeling, John, that Felipe is just going to stay at Williams either for next season or until Fernando Alonso actually says I'm going to Williams, which obviously might not even happen now with the Renault deal. Anyway, guys, obviously this is where we're going to wrap up the GT Preview Show. Thank you very much for watching. If you're new to the F1 Debate Show, make sure to like and subscribe to us. We're not too far away from our season goal of 300 subs, which obviously is absolutely amazing. Thank you very much to everyone who's watched our videos so far. We're getting close to the end of the season, but we still have plenty of action to come, not just from F1, but also from the Fry, the grid. We hope you're enjoying that and everything that we have on the channel. Make sure to catch the F1 Debate Show on Saturday. Mexico is next week on the Thursday, and for the final 3 rounds of the F1 season in 2017. But until then, guys, we've been the F1 Debate Show, and we'll see you later.
See you later, guys.